Right. Good evening, gamers, and welcome to episode 31 of Games with Dave. Tonight, I am joined by the dynamic duo of Josh Harper and Chris Koger, the creators of Hardlight Dynamic, an acid horror tinged adventure for the CyBorg RPG, currently running on Kickstarter. You can find the link down below to back this bad boy. So, yeah, click it, back it, and thanks for joining me tonight, guys. I'm excited to have you on.
Thanks for having us, Dave. Appreciate it.
My
Yeah, Dave, I've been stoked, man, to get on here and talk to you.
Wes Ascoles, I'm hoping I'm saying his name right, just chimed in and said dynamic duo indeed. And I'm sorry,
What's
Wes,
up,
if I screwed up your
Wes?
name.
You got it. You got it too.
All
This is
right.
awesome.
I'm on
You're nailing
fire with
all
the
the names
names.
tonight.
I'm
Yeah, man.
nailing it. So how did you two end up joining forces to make this zine?
So it starts a long time ago. Koger and I, and Wes actually, all were in a gaming group. Koger was running a game called The Sprawl. It's a cyberpunk RPG using Powered by the Apocalypse. And at the end of that campaign, we started talking a little bit about game design, never really did anything with it. And then last year, we reconnected while working on some projects and started really digging into it. Koger or Chris worked with Wes, and they made Beyond Deep, for those of you who are unfamiliar with them. And I worked with another group called Storywood, and we made something called Hunters of the Occult at the time. And then afterwards, we were like, we should work on a project together. We were working, on the same on different projects simultaneously. And we were like, it'd be really fun to work on a project together, see what we could do together, and that's how we joined forces.
Nice. That sounds pretty rad. So what are some of your favorite games to play for both of you when you're not working on Hardlight Dynamic?
Oh man. Um, Probably the stuff that gets to the table at least the most right now is like BX, old D&D, um, and then OSC sometimes, and then an assortment of like kind of weird, random little indie zines and one pagers. I haven't touched. I've been running to run another season of the Sprawl, actually, that Josh mentioned. It's kind of been eating at the back of my brain. But the next thing that I'll be running probably the most of is CyBorg, actually. It's a super clean system. It's really fun. Yeah, right there. For people who don't know it, it is kind of the cyberpunk version of Morkborg, also put out by Stockholm Cartel and Free League Publishing. So
And I'm currently playing a lot of Cyborg, just doing playtesting, stuff like that. And then another game that I'm very likely to pull out, I have a game that I've been working on called 1886. It's like a cowboy western game, and that's always fun to pull out because everyone always loves it. It's a crowd pleaser.
Wild West games are always fun. So,
hmm
um, so I kind of touched on this a little bit before we went live and asked a question about it that I'm going to rephrase a bit and ask, what are some books and movies that we may see glimpses of in this adventure?
You'll see a good amount of stuff like Annihilation, Suspiria. Those are two touchstones that we draw on a lot. I'm a huge fan of the old Ghost in the Shell stuff. You'll see a lot of that come through with the cyberpunk elements. Again, I think Annihilation is one that I go back to a lot because it's the world shifting around them in a sci-fi manner. I think is really cool how they play with the environment.
It is such a good movie too. Like I've watched it, and so many of my friends, oddly enough, are like, "Dude, why do you like this movie?" And I'm like, "Because it's badass. How can you not like this movie?"
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some other references that we've talked about go back to is like a lot of the Lynch stuff, like Eraserhead, Altered
Nice.
States. A little more modern stuff would be like Mandy or Color Out of Space. Kind of pulling on the weird, psychedelic horror stuff. Because we wanted to really mash, the cyberpunk and acid horror stuff together to do something really fun.
Nice. All excellent choices, by the way. So I can already tell this game is going to kick some ass.
Hell yeah.
So, can you guys give me a brief rundown of or I should say myself and folks watching, a brief rundown of what this adventure is all about?
Yeah. So the basic setup is kind of a cyberpunk heist. You can put this into your own campaign. You can run it as a one shot, however you want to handle it. But there's a bunch of story hooks. But the basic hook is you have a reason to go into the Hardlight Dynamic building, the Hardlight Dynamics being a corporation in this world of CyBorg. And you're going to kill it, destroy it, set it free, steal it for somebody else, a bunch of different options there. Part of what else is going on is there is this perfect fractal technology that the Hardlight Dynamics has been developing. And as people interact with it, it's having kind of strange, time shifting, mind bending effects on people. They kind of lose touch with the reality the more that they're around it. So the way it goes is, you get dropped into Hardlight Dynamics and you're cruising your way down through the levels and the different areas, and shit gets weirder and weirder as you go.
Nice. I like it a lot. Um, I saw on the Kickstarter page you're introducing 2 new classes for CyBorg. Without giving away too much, what can you tell me about the Art Punk, I believe it was, and Hardlight Engineer?
So one thing on this project that I thought would be cool, we talked about early on, was we each did our own little class, kind of our take on what would be cool for the adventure. And so Chris came up with the art punk, and I came up with the hardlight engineer. And I think of the hardlight engineer as someone who's able to harness the technology. So we talk about hard light. Think of like Green Lantern constructs, right, where you're able to give light, shape, and physicality. And so I think what we did what I did when I sat down to write it was make someone that was kind of like that, who could manipulate the environment, or create tools, weaponry, or things that they needed, using energy that they accumulated throughout the game.
Nice.
Yeah, and the art punk, was an idea Josh and I talked a little bit about, and I hopped into. But it's the idea of kind of mashing together, a hacker with like a graffiti artist, physical artist, and kind of a gutter punk, street punk. So they collect all kinds of garbage and gear and whatever random bits that they have, and they get kit out of that, and then they can use that to build digital acid bombs that will corrupt digital displays, or a drone that they can use to fly off or get into tight spaces, or use it to paint over cameras. They can build a knife that projects holographic, so you can stab it into someone and all of a sudden they'll look different than they were. You can tag them with a big arrow so your friends can see them. So kind of playing with all of those ideas and stuff has been really fun.
Nice. Yeah, I can just picture from you saying that, stabbing someone, the big arrow pointing down, and like,
Yeah,
get this
yeah,
guy here.
exactly.
um, let's see. Again, without giving away too much, I always try to veer away from spoilers because I like it so when people do get this, they can open it up and say, wow. But what would you say are some of your favorite encounters, if you could list one each? And if you don't want to talk about it, we can skip on to the next one. But if you could tell me a little bit about each of your favorite encounters that you've designed in this. Or would you
That's a
rather
tough
jump
one.
over to I can skip right over it and we can make believe I didn't ask the question.
It's not tough because I don't want to talk about them. I want to talk about all of them.
Well, then
I'm very excited for a lot of them. All of them, but
you could
there's a
talk
few
about
that
all of them. I don't know how much you want to give away. That's
I think one that stands out to me that I really liked. Koger came up with this idea. Chris came up with this idea of these people who are like ripped in half. They have like this like kind of like split effect going on. I don't want to give away too much about it, but there's this weird like encounter in the dungeon, the building, where these people kind of have these pack tactics, and I think that the encounter we built, because you came up with the idea of the enemies first, and we built like the encounter around what would be a good way to harness that effect. And I think we were able to create this really fun, like moment in the campaign where you could have like a lot of oh shit, we gotta go kind of
Nice.
energy. Because it's that's part of the fun is right, like encountering stuff that you don't know if you can actually beat it or not.
Yeah, when you run into stuff that you don't know if you can't beat, it adds such a fun flavor. So
Yeah, the ripped are fun that Josh mentioned because you can kind of think like if you've seen Terminator 2, when the T-1000 gets blasted and it kind of like splits apart.
yep.
It has kind of that vibe, but it's also because you have these kind of screen tears where reality is, separating and you're kind of seeing outside of it. So then in the middle of this part where it's been kind of blasted and split apart, there's this whole, in reality also that's affecting you and the rift itself. So those are fun enemies for sure. Another thing that we worked on was Josh was working on a table of encounters. We have our regular random encounters, but there's a once a game table also that you're only going to see a couple of them in the session, but there's like 6 of them. So I like the idea that if you run it and then you run it again, you're going to run into different stuff and different encounters, as you go through. One of those things is you might be in the middle of it and you run into a different group of mercenaries or runners who are basically trying to do the same job as you. And then you've got to deal with this other group of people that's also in the middle of this building with you.
Oh man. So not only do you have something that can split itself in half, rip you up, you've got other join in and make things even crazier. Justin Vandermeer just chimed in the chat and said, I've had my eye on this campaign. It looks great. What's up, Justin? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate you, bro.
Let's see. Are there any more encounters you want to talk about, Josh, or do you want to hold off on them?
I think I'll hold off on the rest for now. I'm sure I'll talk about them ad nauseum if you let me. So
I've got all night, man. So you can talk all you want.
I'll share one other one I really like. We started off the campaign, we started off the adventure as being more art themed. So, right, you see it with stuff like the art punk and some of the items you'll encounter. But one of the aspects of that was this AI that was creating hardlight structures using memories of people. And we really like this idea of having like these, we call them hardlight phantoms or hardlight specters. And so they're like people whose memories were, consumed by this AI and then regurgitated in the form of, hardlight projections. And I don't want to give away too much with the encounter, but did kind of something like that did make its way into the adventure where you see people and you're not like, is this real? Is this not real? What is happening with regards to this person I'm seeing in front of me? And it's just ways that pulling at the sanity of the characters in the game.
Nice. It definitely sounds like it. That was what I was going to say, is it really sounds like this is going to mess with the characters' heads if people really get into role playing and they're like, oh shit, what did I just see? Oh, so
yeah. And we tried to with a lot of the aspects of the game related to that, we wanted to make it so it was more engaging and narratively tied to the system rather than just here's a stress meter that your character now has tacked on top. It's like, hey, something's going to happen as you encounter these things. It's a range of effects. It's not just like, oh, you're stressed out and now you're panicking. It's like, maybe you thought you grabbed something important earlier on and you totally lost it. Maybe you thought you dodged that last attack, but a couple minutes later you're starting to realize, oh, I'm actually bleeding. Kind of stuff like that, where it's like, oh, something is definitely happening to me.
Nice. Let's see. I saw you've got a bunch of new items that you'll be introducing in this adventure. Can you tell me about a couple of them? And I hate to keep sounding like a broken record, but without giving too much away.
Yeah, no. One item I really like from the campaign that Koger ran with the Sprawl. Our friend Aaron, who was also playing that campaign at one point, he was trying to get really creative. It was his first time, I think, playing the game even, and he was really embracing the off the rails aspect versus D&D, which he was used to at the time. And so he came up with this idea of making this ripcord paint bomb. And it's like, you put some paint on the side of this propane tank, you throw it and it blows up. He really, really liked it. And he made good use of it in the game. The whole idea is you throw it, gets paint on everything, distracts everyone. And I was like, I got to put something like that in this game. Because again, it started from like an art perspective. So I was like, oh, cyberpunk, paint bombs, I'm so there.
Nice.
Nice. Another fun one is the fractal DNA. So as we're playing with the ideas with these perfect fractals and kind of, odd constructs that Hardlight's been developing, you can actually inject yourself with this like fractal DNA and gain new powers from the CyBorg book out of it. But it also stresses your system and kind of starts, kind of separating you from reality a little bit. And if you try to do it a second time, there's some like really horrific possible consequences for what happens then. So
I love Josh's little chuckle there of like, yes, inject it twice.
do it again. Do it again.
So of the new foes that you're introducing, I think it was a total of 14 that I saw that you guys are introducing in this. What would you each say is your favorite of the new foes?
Ooh, I'm trying to go through them now, make sure I remember all of them. There's some ideas that I think are really creative. The ideas are the foes are definitely something that we've gone back and forth on. We've gone through a couple different iterations because we've talked about it a lot. We went and we stripped the game down to the bare bones framework several weeks back and rebuilt it from the ground up. So a lot of the enemies didn't make it back in. Of the ones that made it back in, I really like there's these VR drones we had drawn up, so they're basically stuck with these VR helmets permanently on their heads, trapped. If you're familiar with like Tokyo Ghost, the main character Dent, he's always got like this array of ads and visuals in his mask that he's seeing. And we like the idea of these characters that were just stuck in this permanent VR world trying to play a game or something, and you have to go through this obstacle course filled with these VR drones that are wielding swords and swinging at pixels or nothing, and depending on how you encounter, you're like, oh, they're not that big of a threat, or maybe they could be a very big threat.
Yeah, all depending on what they're fighting in their or playing against in their VR headset. That could be pretty lethal if they're swinging too.
Yeah, one of the fun things we played with that encounter too is, the possibility if you get too close that you're basically kind of dragged or drawn into this game that they're playing. If you also have, AR, VR at all, so then you might be going by and trying to avoid it, and then all of a sudden you're in the middle of whatever, like crazy lunacy that they're playing, interacting with these different VR drones and stuff. So, and to them, the VR was the only real thing. They can't hear anything, they can't see anything of the outside world. They can feel other things, but with the hard light, it builds constructs around them that are physical light all the time. So then even what they're doing as they're running around constantly feels real to them. So
that sounds intense. So another thing I got to know is who came up with this cover? Because that thing, I stare at that and oh.
Yeah, that was me. We talked about different things, and Josh and I both, we have like a Google Drive where we're working on the project, and we have a big folder of just like screenshots and art and 70s psychedelia stuff, and different movie shots from Mandy and Suspiria and everything, and we were really leaning really hard into kind of like the psychedelic art stuff, and got hung up on the spiral, and so just kept playing with it and kept playing with it until I was able to get one, and kind of sink the skull behind it in a way that hurts your eyes just enough.
It's not even that it hurts my eyes. It's just like I look at it and it's so hypnotic, really, for lack of a better term. I just sit there and I stare at it, and it's like, even though it's not moving, it's moving. and it's
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Yeah, your eyes when the lines are clean enough and it's the right spacing, your eyes kind of like feel, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
the optical
Oh, I know
illusion
exactly
aspects
what
to
you
it.
mean.
Yeah. There's a little
Wh-
bit of like vertigo from Hitchcock in there as well, stuff too. So
one of the things when we started this, as I sat Koger down and I said, Chris, I need, like, I know this is gonna sound really weird because we're writing a cyberpunk adventure for CyBorg. But I pulled out the spiral book covers from Koji Suzuki's Ring series, the books, the actual books, the
Oh,
American
nice.
prints from Chip Kidd. He did
yeah.
a series of spiral, like, the similar design where they're like, there's a spiral emanating from the center. There's text that's stylized across the cover. I was like, I love this, Chris. This is like, when I talk about like, kind of trippy visuals, visuals that are, playing with your eyes as you look at them, this is what I'm talking about. And I was ecstatic when Chris came back and was like, how do you feel about the skull cover? And I was like, this is it. It's all clicking together. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, it really is.
Yeah, the Koji Suzuki, big inspiration. Those covers are radical.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check those out. I haven't seen those in quite some time. Now that you've brought them up, I'm gonna have to look at them and just sit there and be like, um. So in the actually, I don't want to ask that question yet. Can you go over the 3 different tiers for people out there that maybe still haven't backed this project that are on the fence about it?
Yeah, there we wanted to keep it super clean and super simple. We've both done Kickstarters in the past, and so it is just a straight 3 tiers. You get the digital, the PDF for $10. If you go in for 20, you get the physical and the digital. And if you go in for 30, you're going to get the physical book, the digital, and a set of item cards, tarot cards. Those are a lot of fun. Wes and I actually did that on our project, Beyond Deep. And it's kind of cool because it's gonna be a tarot size. It's got the art on one side. It's got all the rules on the back. So if you're playing in a physical game, you can literally be like, "Hey, you pick this up," and hand them a card, and they've got all the rules and everything they need right there.
Dude, that's awesome. That's the level I went in at, and I cannot wait to get them.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. My homeboy Tesley just jumped in and sent us a heart. He's an amazing artist. For folks out there that don't know, check out Tesley art. Sorry for the quick pitch for him, but
Do it. Drop that link later. I'm always looking for artists.
So, speaking of art, what can you tell me about the art being done for this project and who you're working with?
So the artist, his name is Mark Pica. He's from the Philippines. I spend so much time scouring the internet for artists. I'm always looking for people I want to work with. I care a lot about the artistic vision that I have in my head. I'm always trying to find people that I feel like can kind of, work with me on that. And Mark was just someone who I think on a whim posted they were new to commissions. They were like, "Hey, I want to start doing this," and so I reached out to them, and we connected. We worked on some small stuff together, and we were like, hey, like, we're doing this project, do you want to, are you interested in?
Oh,
Oh no! Looks like we
no.
lost Josh. Josh, no.
We'll give him a minute and see what happens here.
Yeah, well, I'll hop in then where he was, and hopefully he'll pop back in. Yeah. So we were working with Mark, great artist, good guy to work with. We did a few small things, and then told him, hey, we have a bigger project. It's going to probably be about this many pieces, this kind of styles. And we were able to work with him. He kind of bumped his rates a couple times, and then we're going to pay him an extra amount after that once the Kickstarter funds. So we always want to work with artists, and we both made a
Uh-oh.
decision a while back that we didn't want to use any AI art in anything. We always want to be able to work with someone who's going to create whatever it is that we're using in the game.
I've got to do some quick work here on the screen. Everything just went bonkers when we lost Josh.
Oh yeah, he said he just lost power at his house,
Oh
actually.
no.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's
That's a bummer.
unfortunate. I'm going to fix this real quick. So this is my lesson learned. I need to have a "we'll be right back" screen made up in
There you
case
go.
this ever happens again.
Yes, you learn by doing, man. That's the
Yeah,
way it goes. The
I am
situation
actually
comes
going to
up.
do that real quick. And yeah, so it looks like we're back in business. I've
Cool.
actually only got a couple more questions, so I guess you could say he fell out at kind of a good time.
There you
Hopefully he
go.
gets power back soon. But
Yeah.
what is the fulfillment projection, I guess you would say, of when you're planning on this hitting people's mailboxes?
Absolutely. So our projected fulfillment is August of this year, so August 2023.
Nice.
Yeah, so we've looked at everything. Like I said, we've done some projects before. We kind of know our timelines. Actually, Wes and I just shipped out all the books for Beyond Deep, my last project. Josh was part of Storywood, who's delivered 3 or 4 projects before. So the art's coming in steady. I'm working on layouts almost every day, tweaking on things. So all we need to do is, get funded. We'll finish up the last bits, send stuff to editing, and then, get art and stuff. So I'm excited. I'm confident to get everything out by August.
Oh, now Josh is back. Oh no, now I got to switch the screen around. You got power back.
I'm so
Hey.
sorry. I am
It's all
so
right, dude.
sorry.
No worries. Stuff happens. I'm having fun. Anybody out there, this is a true psychedelic experience for them while I adjust the screens. So I was
All right,
saying
my
to
turn now.
Chris, this is my lesson in making sure going forward that I have a "we'll be right back" screen because I've never made one up. And now I've got to figure out how to get you back on the screen. But we have the audio, and I actually only had one more question, and then I will let you guys go. Will there be any options for add-ons of other projects the two of you have done post Kickstarter?
So right now you can actually get add-ons right now in your Kickstarter for both stuff that Chris has worked on and myself. So for me, I brought my previous project from Storywood that I worked on with a bunch of other people, the Holy Artifacts of the Sacred Tragedies. So those are 3 trifold zines we did for Zine Quest or Zemo last year. This time last year, and they're morphboard adventures, and you can play them as single one-shots or you can play them as a joint adventure. And then Chris, you can buy both Beyond Deep and the Tarot deck from Spooky Bell Games as an add-on as well.
Nice. Well, I'm sorry, Josh, your face kind of disappeared off the stream here. We have the phantom voice of Josh.
Yeah, I
for
said he's
several
just a specter now that we can
Yeah.
hear and can't see.
It's,
Now I've become the Hardlight Phantom.
you took the words right out of my mouth. Well, that was actually all I had for questions. Is there anything that you guys feel like we might have missed or not touched on that you'd like to talk about?
No, I feel pretty good, man.
Awesome.
I appreciate you having us on. I've been stoked to talk to you, and it's been cool to see, you jump in with both feet into Zine Quest and Zine Month and help support just a ton of creators. So it's a cool community, and I'm glad to see someone else, become a part of it.
It is a cool community, and I am all about helping indie game designers. So if there's anybody out there that would like to do an interview with a guy that doesn't have a "we'll be right back" screen prepared, hit me up. Well, if we don't have anything else, folks, I hope you enjoyed this interview. I had a blast talking to you guys. If you enjoyed the interview, drop a like on it, maybe subscribe. And other than that,